Hey. Good morning. You're here already.
Yeah, I have to go around.
Tomorrow, yeah, that's in the Torah. Okay, right. We're on top of Samach Beis, on top of 62. 3 lines from the top, right? Is on 61B, is there 62 there? Oh, maybe because you left.
61B is a top and 62 is top.
We're going to start from Hayed Rabbi Yossi ben Meshulam. Yeah, that was very involving piece, back and forth about trusting people for switching the truma for the year. Okay, so it's 3 lines from the top. We thank Hashem that we're able to learn Torah every day. The schus of our learning, we should have the base of Mikdash. Hayed Rabbi Yossi ben Meshulam Mishum Rabbi Yochanan Achiv. That's interesting. Rabbi Yossi ben Meshulam testifies in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, his brother. Shamar Mishum Rabbi Elazar ben Chisma, said in the name of Rabbi Elazar ben Chisma. Rabbi Elazar ben Chisma was the Talmud of Rabbi Akiva. Yeah, there's a medrash that says that he went to some town and they asked him to daven for them, and he didn't know how to daven for them, and so they laughed at him. So he came back to Rabbi Akiva. He said, "Teach me how to daven for them." So when he came back to the town, daven for them, and then they were all silent. Chisma means silent. He silenced them. It's called that. There's actually 2 versions. One is Rabbi Elazar Chisma. One is Rabbi Elazar ben Chisma. It could be this is someone else. Could be that was Rabbi Elazar Chisma. It says ben Chisma. But here it says ben Chisma, right? And in Pirkei Avos it quotes Rabbi Elazar Chisma, and the ben is in parentheses. In the I forget which parak it is. Okay, it says, what does he say? He says, "Einais in chala samarz betara." Talking about a kneader with a K. He's the guy that kneads the dough. You bring him your flour and he makes it into dough. If there was a baker, there's also a kneader. So I don't know if there's another word for it. You can't. If an Amaretz comes and brings you his dough, you can't then just separate truma and give it to the Kohen as if everything is good.
Would it be considered pas Yisrael or official Yisrael?
That's a very good question. It would be. However, there's Jonathan is bringing up about pas Yisrael here. Do we say that a non-religious Jew is not pas Yisrael? I don't know. I don't think so. I'm not sure. I know with wine there's a problem. Someone not Shomer Shabbos, not observant. Anyway, and Amaretz is observant, so that doesn't come up here. No, he's observant. He's just not careful with purity and impurity. So once he gives the dough to the fellow, the fellow can't say, "Okay, because I'm keeping it pure, so now it's pure for me." So, because when he gave it to him, it could have been tummy already. However, if the fellow, the Amaretz, gives the flour to the kneader, doesn't give the dough to the kneader. The first case was he gave the dough to the kneader, so it was already mixed with water. Here he's giving the flour. If he gives the flour to the kneader, then the kneader can make it all in purity, and then he can take challah. And what does he do with the challah? He puts it in a vessel that's not a typical vessel. It's something that would not be makabel to my what the words are. Kvisa or anchusa. I don't know. Do they translate what type of vessel it is? It's like it says worn out flasks of some sort. Kvisa is a basket. And Anchusa, the Ganu explained it's simple wooden board. I didn't see that. How do they translate it in this simply? A basket or a vessel. Okay. Puts in a basket or a vessel, which are not Mekabel Tumah. And therefore, when the Amaretz comes and takes, he takes both of them, and he can give the challah to the challah is the removed dough. That's supposed to be given to the Kohen.
So people still do that today.
Everyone separates challah, yeah. But yeah, if you make your own challah, you have to separate. Usually, you get them. What happens is you make a dough. If it's
I don't make challahs.
They come over one time Friday afternoon. Usually guests come on Shabbos. They come Friday afternoon when they're making the dough, and then they take a pinch of the dough, and they say Hareza Challah. This is Challah. They say a bracha. They finish off with Lahafresh Challah. Take the Shana of Lahafresh Challah. Then they say Yirat Sein Lofenecha Shebana Bismillah.
It's pre-bought challah.
So if you buy the challah in the store, then the bakery had already removed challah. Let's hope. Yeah. There's even an issue with large amounts of cookies and cakes also. Cakes has a soft batter, so that's I think a machlekes. But I think cookies, I think challah. Yeah, even though it's mezainis, I think you have to take challah. Right. So they separate challah. Now that challah, it has to be given to the kohen. It has to be kept pure. But the challah that we take nowadays, because all of us are impure before we even started, so we just burn it because we can't give it to the kohen. The way we burn it is you collect a bunch of them and you just put it in the oven and turn it on for longer than it's.
Oh, really?
Does it
turn the smoke on and then?
No, it just like burns. Okay, it's wrapped in tin foil.
Is there like a question where people collect them and then
burn it with the chametz? If they don't do it regularly, then they'll burn it with the chametz. So, okay, that's story number one. That was talking about kneading dough. Next case. You can't take truma from the olives that he brings to the olive press, because when the olives are sitting, you see the rule with impurity by foods is that once it gets wet. Now, when the olives sit, they sweat, and that sweat, that the moisture that oozes out from it is already considered that it got wet. So, but he can take the olives. Can't there's a step in this process where the olives are turned over to give to the olive press. Then it's already too late to consider it pure. But if it's before that step, if they're just fresh olives, that's not a problem. Then what do we call him? A presser, an olive press person. The olive press person, let's say. So it's the same story. If he gives it at an earlier stage, then he can put it into his own vessels and the truma part, which he kept pure. And then when the chaver shows up, when the amaretz shows up, he takes both of them. Takes both the regular olive oil, and also he takes the truma olive oil. He takes that, and it's in the special vessels, and there's no problem. Basically, we had two cases here. We had the dough, kneading of the dough. That depends at what point the chaver, which is the person that keeps everything pure, depends what time he received it. If he received it before it was mixed with water, then he can make it pure. And the same thing with the olives. If he receives the olives before was turned over, before it starts to sweat, he can keep it pure. And then what he does is he separates either the challah or he separates the truma, and he puts it into separate vessels. Now, for the challah, we said we put it into vessels that don't become tamei. And for the truma, we said we put it into the vessels of the chaver. The time of Mai. What's the reason why we're lenient about this? Problem is that the Amaretz is going to come and take it. He's going to make it tamei. He's not giving it directly to the Kohen. He said, well, Amar Rabbi Yechon Mishum Kedei Chayev the Gaval, Mishum Kedei Chayev the Badad. Well, you have these people that have this income. In order to support them, they weren't over strict and be concerned that maybe the chaver was going to maybe the Amaretz was going to make it tamei after they took it. You designated it already that it's separate. So that's good enough. And as long as we get the person he can work. He can have a job. There's a lot of restrictions on a frum person having a job. Can't be a barber. When they ask him to cut the payas, can't be a veterinarian. They ask him to neuter the animal. He can't. There's a lot of restrictions. Is he allowed to knead the dough of an amaretz? It's going to become tamei. Is he allowed to? They said if he gets it at a certain point, he can. If the same thing with the olive press. Okay, utzricha. And it's necessary to say both of these cases, even though they're very similar. Diashmin and Gabal, if it would just tell me about the person kneading the dough, Misham Shagri, that's a very small income. So we would say that this is a poor person. What type of person would have a job like that he hardly gets any income? It's got to be he's making nothing. So we don't want to take away even that nothing from him. So we would let him be lenient in that he can do this for the Amaretz. Aval Bada, but someone that does an olive press already owns the olive press. I don't know if he owns it, but that's already a big job. The Nafesh Agri, that's a lot of money to press the olives. A Malay, I would say, is probably a wealthy guy. He should not be allowed to do this. He should get the job from somewhere else. He's in real estate. V'yashmin and Bada, the Rif would say he's a olive press. I would say that it's only the olive press guy isn't compared to real estate. He doesn't always make deals. It's not an everyday thing. It comes up when he makes the deal. And over here by the olive press, it's only seasonal when he has the olives. It's when the olives are ready. By the aval gaval, but by kneading dough, the shchiachle, that's an everyday thing. It's a different sort of business. The guy shows up, twice a week or more to knead the bread. A Malay, I would say that he has a steady income, so that is we should not be lenient for him. Tzricha, we need both cases. This one doesn't have a steady income, and this one doesn't have a large margin, profit. So we're lenient for them. Amar Mar. Now we're going to go back and explain what we learned. What he does is when he receives the flour, and he turns it into dough. We're talking about the chaver now. He receives it at the early stage of when it's still flour. So then he makes it into dough, and then he separates the challah. He puts the challah into the basket or to the vessel. The Amaretz comes and takes it. He takes both of them, and we're not worried that he's going to contaminate it. Gemara says, we should suspect maybe he's going to touch the actual dough, and he's going to contaminate it. The Gemara says, we tell him that you have to be careful. We put it in a separate basket. Do not touch the dough. If you do, you're going to mess it up and you won't be able to eat it. Yeah, he is. We assume that he's impure. So we put it into a protective vessel, something that doesn't become impure. It doesn't transmit impurity. But we tell him to be very careful because what we add to it is we say that if you're going to make it impure, it's going to mess up the dough. Now, I'm not sure if it really messes up the dough. It's going to make it that there was no challah that was given to the Kohen. But the challah was already separated. So I'm not sure if that's just a claim that we're telling him to be extra careful. Sometimes like don't touch the tree. It's like an added thing. Or I'm not sure if this is really accurate. The Gemara says, maybe he doesn't care. Maybe he's going to eat the dough without challah being taken. It says, what are you saying? he's giving it to him and he's asking him to take the challah. You think he doesn't care if the challah is acceptable? Of course he cares about it. That was his whole point. Okay, next case. Amar Mar.
And he also paid. He paid the extra for the meter.
To separate the challah?
Yeah.
But that I don't know. Is there an extra fee for the separating challah?
Just for this reason, he employed a meter who works in a state of.
Oh, so he paid. He went to the religious neighborhood to get his challah needed. Over there, it's more expensive.
And there's a 1% premium. Maybe. You could say he does not care, right?
Right. Amar Master taught this. We're going back to the second case of the Brisa. That they separate the truma, the chaver separates the truma, which we're talking about now, the olive oil. He puts it in his own vessel. And the Amaretz comes and he takes that vessel as well. And there's no problem. The Gemara says, but maybe he's going to touch the oil. Actually, over here, maybe he's going to touch the vessel because he can contaminate the vessel, but that could contaminate the oil. Depends what type of tumor it is. The Gemara says, Islay Hakera. Over there, he knows not to touch the actual dough because he put it into a different type of vessel. So he knows everything is different here. But over here, how does he know not to touch it? The vessels look the same. You didn't say he puts it into an abnormal vessel. He said you just put it into the vessel of the chaver. But that's probably the same vessel that the same looking, typical, puts it in a typical container. There's no, the manachle beklei galalim beklei avanim beklei adama. No. Puts it into a type of vessel that doesn't get impure. For example, clay galalim. It's made out of looks like made out of manure. I'm not sure how they process that. That's how they would somehow they would process it. I would imagine it's like like bone china. It must be made out of somehow they make it into like a powder, and then they put it into a kiln or something. Clay avanim, it's made out of stone, a stone vessel that I can imagine. Clay adama, it's made out of clay, or a clay vessel. It's made out of, not clay. Clay it sounds like it's heated up. I think clay adama means that it's not even heated up, and that's why it's not considered a vessel. It's just made out of dirt. So therefore the vessel doesn't become contaminated, and the olive oil, the person knows not to touch it. Okay. The Gemara says, if that's the case, then why did you make a distinction between the two cases? He said that by the dough you put it into this, by the olive oil you put it into his own vessels. My area the chaver. Why do you have to say that it's the vessel of the chaver? I feel the amaretz nami. Even if the vessel was owned by the amaretz, it's still not impure. Why do you have to make that contrast? It says hachinami kamar. This is exactly what it meant. It meant to say the kelim shel amaretz aroyim l'shtamish b'm chaver. We didn't mean that he puts it into a vessel that's owned by the chaver. He said we put it into a vessel that's fit to be used by the chaver, which means that it's a vessel of the amaretz, but it was the type of vessel that the chaver wouldn't mind using because it never becomes impure anyway. Okay. Yeah, I was wondering, how does the chaver get his vessel back? Over here we have the answer. It wasn't the chaver's vessel. It was a vessel that was fit to be used by the chaver, but it belonged to the amaretz. Chaver is that. Chaver is, the word means a friend, but it means he's one of the group of the religious group that keep the laws of purity. He's the opposite of amaretz, right?
The thing about the clay vessel, it doesn't have to be baked. I think the clay will dry in the sun, right. It'll become hard and usable. The same thing with dung. That you could just take dung, you have a camel or a llama, right? And you have seen this, and it's piled up. You use fertilizer,
right?
Or you could make it very hard, like stone, I guess.
Right. Here it's olive oil.
Olive oil.
Yeah, it doesn't sound so appetizing. Okay. It says you're allowed to support the work of a non-Jew on Shemitah. The Gemara is going to ask, Machzikin, you're allowed to support? What does it mean? You're allowed to go and help him? The guy is working in his field. You shout out, you need some help. It's the Shemitah year. In your own field, you're not allowed to work. You're allowed to go over to his field and do work for him. Rav Dimi Bar Shishna says in the name of Rav that in the Shemitah year, you're not allowed to go weed together with the non-Jew in Shemitah, even though it's not a Jewish-owned property. And it also says, you're not allowed to say hello twice. But peace unto you, you can't say it twice. We allow you to say peace, shalom, to a non-Jew because to increase the harmony, but you're not allowed to overdo it. Okay, now the Gemara. So our question is, what did it mean that you're allowed to support him in his work? When in the Shemitah year, we have a statement that you're not allowed to go work with him. So the Gemara says no, that's not the case. We're talking about to tell him good luck, have a good day, to strengthen him. We're talking about achzuki over here doesn't mean to actually work with him, it means to give him encouragement.
Oh, because you can do that.
That you're allowed to do. Rav Yehuda says that he would tell to a non-Jew, he would say, be strong. And Rav Sheshes Amalu Ashrasa, he would say, be strong. Another type of word of strength. What is it? Well done.
Oh, so he always says, good job.
Oh, yeah. Well, you'd for sure be allowed to tell them take the rest of the day off. And tell them take the rest of the Shemitah off. Okay, you're not allowed to say twice, peace unto you. Rav Chisda would make sure to say peace unto you first, so that he didn't have to respond an extra response. He would always try to make sure that he told the non-Jew first peace, so that way he didn't have to do the double expression. And Rav Kana Lamar, it says peace to the master. The Rashi over here says that when he said peace to the master, he was actually not referring to the fellow himself. He meant someone else. And Taisva says he doesn't like that pshat. He says because when you say peace unto the master and you don't mean him, he says that's Geneva Stas. You're stealing his intention. It means you're misleading him, which is not allowed. Taisva argues on Rashi.
Right.
Taisva says, what is he trying to gain by that? The whole point is that you're not allowed to say peace twice. So he said, okay, so he didn't say peace twice. He said peace unto the master. He said it once. That's the point of the Gemara. Okay.
Before when you said weed, remember you can't weed on Shabbat.
Yeah.
He says hoe. Is there a difference? I don't know.
I think hoe means to uproot the weeds.
Oh.
Yeah. Are you thinking about weeding with getting on your knees and pulling weeds out? I think what the hoe is they would get into the ground and pull up the weeds. I think that's the idea. Shailim b'shleimah, you're allowed to ask how they're doing. What did the Mishnah say? Yeah, you're allowed to ask a non-Jew how they're doing. The Gemara says, you're allowed to tell them, be strong, good job, continue working on Shemitah. So for sure you're allowed to say, how are you? Talking about that it's their holiday. There's a problem with exchanging greetings on their holiday. The Tanya taught in a brayso, not let it go over to a non-Jew's house on his holiday and tell him peace. Matzo bashuk. If you find him in the marketplace, then you tell him, but you don't overdo it. You tell him like under your breath, say peace, very quietly. Rav Huna, Rav Chisda v'Yasvi. Rav Huna and Rav Chisda were sitting. This Gemara, I think we had exactly this Gemara before. Lamed Aleph, and then we had it to be referencing Daf Zayin. I think it was exactly the same Gemara. No. Yeah, it's the same. Who was sitting over here? It was Rav Huna and Rav Chisda, but the conversation is different afterwards, and it's referencing this Geneva. So it goes like this. You have a comment on that? Yeah, then Geneva is a member of the first and second generation of the Amoraim in Babylonia. He was one of the more colorful characters of that era. A sage of great stature, he was often visited in his home by the Amira Rav. He was also quarrelsome and contentious.
We know anybody like that?
Okay. I'm not sure. Yeah. Okay, so it goes like this. Rav Huna and Rav Chisda Yasvi. Rav Huna and Rav Chisda were sitting. Chalef va'azel Geneva. Geneva is passing by. So one of them says to his friend, Rav Huna to Rav Chisda, Rav Chisda to Rav Huna, let's stand up for him. The Bar Urian, who he's a big Talmud Chacham. Amar Loi, the other one says back, Mekami Palga Nekum, you want us to stand up in front of that quarrelsome person? Now in the Gemara on Daf Zayin, Mar Ukva says, am I allowed to inform the government about him? I could get rid of Geneva because he's bothering me a lot. And they responded to him and says, Hashkim Bahariv, go early to the base measures, go late to the base measures, and the enemies will disappear on their own. And once they said that, so then Geneva was taken out in a collar, in a collar, and in a chain. So he was arrested. Anyway, but he was apparently he argued with Marukva. Adahachi, meanwhile, Asa Ila Gabayo, he walks over to them. Amalu, Shalom Aleichem Alki, peace unto you, kings. Shalom Aleichem Alki, peace unto you, kings. Amrulay, they said to him, how do you know that the rabbis are called kings? He has a pasuk, that in me the kings will rule, referring to the sages. How do you know that you say peace unto you twice? Rav Yehuda actually says this in the name of Rav. He says, how do you know that you're supposed to say peace unto you, king? You're supposed to say it twice. Shnemar, we have a pasuk. That a spirit dressed up a Masai, who was the head of the some sort of legion, some sort of group of soldiers, and he says, "Shalom lecha." What does he say? Lecha David v'imcha shalom shalom lecha. Right? It says peace unto you. So Amrulay, we say this in after Shabbos. Amalei Litte Marmidi says, would the master like to eat something? They told Amrulay, they told Geneva. Amar Lahu, he said to them, Hachi Amar Rav Yudah Amar Rav. Rav Yudah says, name of Rav Asalei Ladim Shitim Klom Achit Meichel Bemte. I'm not allowed to eat. I didn't give food to my animals. Shenemar Benasati Yisib Besal Talavim Techa. V'hadar v'achalta v'savata. Says, I'll give grass in your fields for your animals, and then you'll eat and you'll be satisfied. That means that you have to feed the animals first. Yeah, I think so. But they would quote his halacha, right? Oh. It's not the new parak. This parak was sort of outside of the topic of Gittin. A lot of it was not. This last parak was sort of not very Had a little bit about the ksuba, whatever, but it was mostly a lot of it was about Darkei Shalom. Like
Now
we're back into Gittin. It goes like this. Aimer skabel get delishti. Before we start, let me just tell you that there's two types of shluchim.
One that asks you for money and one that doesn't.
One that asks you for money and one that doesn't. No, there's two types of shluchim. One, no, because that's not true, because they all ask you for money.
The one that keeps on here.
Right. Right. So, two types of shluchim when it comes to Gittin. One is the shliach of the husband. So the husband has to give a get to his wife. Husband doesn't want to travel, let's say, or he doesn't want to see his wife. So he gives the get over to a messenger. He says, bring this get to my wife. That's called the shliach l'haylacha. He's a shliach that's bringing. Then there's another type of shliach. There's a wife that has to receive the get. She doesn't want to go to her husband. Maybe she doesn't want to see her husband, ex-husband. So she makes a messenger to receive the get. It's called the shliach l'kabbalah. Shliach to receive. So the shliach from the husband is called the shliach l'haylacha. Shliach from the wife is called the shliach l'kabbalah. So the wife is the only one that can make a shliach l'kabbalah. And a shliach l'haylacha, the wife make the shliach l'haylacha. Well, the husband would give the get to him. That the default is that it's a shliach l'haylacha. But basically, when she receives it, then that would be considered a good get. But if you want to get the get before she receives it, then that would be a shliach l'kabbalah. That can only be done by the wife. The messenger to get the get before it reaches the wife. If she wants to be divorced before she actually receives the actual document, she can. She has to tell the messenger, receive it on my behalf.
Right.
Let's say she has a wedding plan, and it's going to take too long for her to receive the get. She wants to get married. The hall is already booked. So, and the get is in Morocco. So she sends someone over there to receive the get. They say, we received it. You're good to go. She goes down to the chuppah. You get it? Right. Okay. Right. We had this earlier. Anyway, this is when the man says, his skabel get zeli ishti. He's messing up the expression here. The man says, receive this get for my wife. Because that's not what the man's supposed to say. He's supposed to say, bring the get to my wife. Or if he says, bring the get to my wife, which is what he's supposed to say. If any time along the way he decides to retract, wants to take it back from the fellow, he could take it back because the wife isn't divorced yet. She never received it yet. Even if he used the expression, which means receive, it still doesn't mean anything. It really means bring. Let's say the woman said, receive the get for me. It's a different story. If she wants to retract, then she can't say, I don't want to receive it. The messenger already got it. It's too late. She can't say, don't bring it to me. It's too late. Let's say the husband tells to the messenger, I don't want you to receive it for her. I want you to bring it to her. I want this to go like directly to her. Then he refused to use the shliach l'kabbalah, and he wants to use a shliach l'haylacha, a bringing shliach. Then he can retract from that. He can retract anytime, and he can say that I'm not giving the get.
I have a question. Why can't the woman, before her shaliach l'kabbalah receives it, yachzor?
Oh yeah, then yes.
In that period, she should.
She should be allowed to.
Stop when you read the words of Mishnah.
Yeah, it means that once he receives it. Yeah, it must be. If a woman says, take my get, that also means receive it for me. That's what Rav Gamliel is telling us, that the take it means receive it on my behalf. We jump a lot of generations here. That's usually after a Mishnah. We explain it with when does this case apply with first, second, third generation. We jump to the sixth generation of it. We jump to Rav Ashi. Taima, the reason that it doesn't work over here, the first case, where the husband says, receive the get from my wife, that's not a statement that the husband can make. Why is that not? Because the wife has to make that statement. But let's say she actually said, be my messenger to receive it on my behalf. And the husband says, I'm adding in words here into Gemara to make it fit. The Gemara then says, take it to my wife. He didn't agree to but he didn't say I refuse. He used the word bring it. He used the word bring it. She used the word receive it. For the first case of the Mishnah, we say that he uses the word receive, it doesn't work. We say, but let's say she would use the word receive, then of course it would work. And now we add in that even if the husband doesn't say, take it on her behalf, the husband says, bring it to her. He doesn't say, I don't want it to be. He doesn't say, I don't want you to receive it, but bring it to her. He just says, bring it to her. So it looks like then it would be considered a good divorce, and he won't be able to retract. We have a question in other places. If when he says bring it, does he really mean receive it on her behalf, or does he mean actually it only works until it reaches her? That was a question we had in other places. From this Gemara, Rav Acha Breder Rav Avia is trying to prove that it seems that if he would have said bring it, it would actually mean receive it on her behalf. The Gemara says lie. No, that's not a good proof. Really, I can tell you, really, if he says bring it, it does not mean receive it on her behalf. So why do you have to say that the case where it's not receiving it on her behalf is when he says receive it on her behalf, where it's totally messed up, where he tries to make the messenger shliach l'kabbalah where it really doesn't. Why do you have to say that case? You could have said a case that's even less severe, and it still wouldn't have been a shliach l'kabbalah. You could have said, bring it to her, and it still wouldn't have been you could have said that she said receive it on my behalf, and he says bring it to her, and it still wouldn't have worked. Why do you have to say eskabel gets? He says no. Eskabel get li'ishti tzrichale. But this is when he says receive it on her behalf. There's actually a chiddush there. I could have thought since the husband cannot make a shliach lekabbalah, only the wife can do that. I could have thought that even when the get reaches her hands, it shouldn't be a good divorce. Why? He didn't make a shliach lekabbalah, and he didn't, because he can't, right? He didn't make a shliach la'ilacha because he tried to make a shliach lekabbalah, right? He didn't make a so maybe it's nothing. Kamash malan, the Mishnah comes to tell us this kabel v'haylach kamar. What he meant to say was take it on her behalf, which means bring it to her. In other words, it's still going to work as a bring it. Okay.
They give a lot of different scenarios. But do we go by the action instead of like the formulation of the words?
Over here, it would mean, we're saying that even though he said iskabel, but what he means to say is bring it to her. Okay. Tanan. So Rashi learns. Tanan was taught in the Mishnah. Isha Shamra, if a woman says iskabel, we're going to try to bring proofs over here to show what does haylech mean. When he says haylech means take it or bring it. Does it mean that to receive it for her or not? Isha Shamra iskabel giti. A woman says, receive my get, which means she made a shliach le-kabbalah. If she wants to retract, la-yachzer, she can't retract because once the get is received, she is divorced even though she never saw the get. My love, what is it not? Loishna kabbalah, loishna ilacha.
Excuse me, in the English, for some reason it says if and puts in parentheses, the husband wants to retract.
You cannot retract.
Understand that.
Oh, if the husband wants to retract, if the husband wants to retract. In other words, the husband says
then
that.
There's no get.
Right, but once he gives the get,
Then
he can't retract.
Right.
That's what it means. So, and we're talking about, we think over here when it says, even though she said, receive the get from me, we think that it's not a problem if she would have said also, take it to me. We think that would have been the same halacha. The Gemara says, lie. It's not the same halacha. Kabbalah. It's only referring to if she says to receive it on her behalf. Why would we have thought that? Because the first case of the Mishnah had two cases. The first clause of the Mishnah had two cases in it. It says the husband says, receive this from my wife, or take this get to my wife. We say that the husband can still retract until the get reaches the wife. But if the wife comes in and says, receive it on my behalf, then whatever the husband says doesn't matter. It's automatically accepted. And we think that even when the husband says, take it to her. So we say, you see, when the husband says, take it to her, that means receive it for her. That means, hailech, take it, means receive on her behalf. And that was a question that we had the whole time. Does hailech mean zechi, receive it on her behalf? We say no. We say it's not a proof, because it could be that it's only talking about the first case where if the husband says receive it for her, it doesn't work. But if she says receive it for me, and then the husband says receive it for her, then it does work. Okay. Tashima. Come and listen. If the husband says, no, I refuse to give it to you, to the messenger, as a shliach lekabbalah. I want you only to be a messenger lahilacha, to bring it. Why is it not going to be why is it not going to be divorced immediately when he receives it? Because he said, I refuse to do that. Efshi means like it's not possible for me to do that. But if he doesn't say it's not possible for me, then he won't be able to retract. And what did he say? Take it. Obviously, when he says take it, he means acquire it. The Gemara says, Dilma behelach. Maybe he says, not take it to her, but he said, here it is. Helach means here it is. Is that how they translate it there? Maybe he didn't say take it. Take it means bring it. Helach means acquire. That's what they're saying. Okay, helach just means is when you present something to someone else. You say helach. Helach, this for you. You want to show it to me? Right. No, iskab. No, 1 second. Dilma behelach. Yeah. Here you are, helach. The husband is thereby saying, here you are, and it is yours. Certainly an expression of acquisition. Okay. Okay, very good. Shita. I think this is how the Gemara starts off by introducing a question. It says us something that we do know, and then it says, but what about what we don't know, which is coming up? Shita. The first thing, this is obvious, that ish habishliach la'ilacha. I know that a man could be a messenger from the husband to bring a get to his wife. Shekain baal melech get lishli, because the husband himself can do it. Isha habishliach lekabbalah. A woman could be a messenger from the wife to receive the get. Shekain isha mekabbalah skita miyad baila, because a woman can receive the get from her husband, so she can also be a messenger to receive the get for someone else, another wife, or someone else's wife could be a messenger for her. Ish lekabbalah. What about a man as a representative of the woman? Or what about a woman that's a representative of the man to bring the get? Yeah? What's the din? Tashima. I'm going to try to prove this from the Mishnah. Yonatan thought of this question. The Malach.
He's even honest.
Malach forgot to hit you. Tashima, come and listen. Haimer, hiskabel, in the womb, the Malach teaches the whole Torah. So. Haimer, hiskabel gets elishti. If someone says to his wife, receive this get, not to his wife, he says to the messenger, receive this get on behalf of my wife. I helach gets elishti, or bring this get to my wife. Wants to retract, he could still retract because the wife didn't receive it yet. If the wife said to a messenger, receive the get on my behalf, then he cannot retract because it's too late. Once he hands it over to the messenger, she's divorced. My love, is it not the chad shliach? We're talking about the same messenger. We have two cases here. The husband makes the messenger, the woman makes the messenger. Talking about the same person. The Gemara says, Shema mina kasher. Kasher lekabala, kasher leilacha. Maybe it's supposed to be kasher leilacha, kasher lekabala. That the one that can bring the get can also receive the get. You see, you can use a man. The Gemara says, "Loi, we're talking about it's two different stories. You don't have to say it's exactly the same scenario." Tashima, come and listen. Try to get to the two dots. But so if the husband says, "No, I refuse to use you as a shliach lekabala. I want to use you as a shliach lahilacha and bring it to her." You have to bring it to her. So Yasi can still reject. We see clearly that the one that would have been a shliach lekabala, the woman that would have been a recipient, the husband switches her over and turns her into a shliach lahilacha. That means you could use a woman to be a shliach lahilacha. Sheitmina yishavi shliach lekabala shekain. Oh, it's saying it the opposite. It's saying that we're talking about that the man, that she was sending a man to be a shliach lekabala, and then the husband switched him into a shliach lahilacha. So, shaitmina, we can answer from this that a man ish havi shliach lekabala, that the man could have been a messenger on the wife's behalf to receive it. Because we have a precedent for this, that a father can receive a divorce for his daughter. You see, a man can receive a get on behalf of a woman. But isha lailacha tibayilach mai. But we still have the question of, can a woman be a messenger to bring the get from the man to the woman? Amar Rav Mari Tashima. So Rav Mari says, come and listen. Even women that are not acceptable to say that your husband died, but they are acceptable to bring a get. You said those are the mother-in-law and all those problem, the tzaras. But you see that they can bring a get. You see, a woman could be a shliach lehaylacha. We can learn this even from the end of the Mishnah. In the first Mishnah in this Masechta, we say, is it the first Mishnah? No, we say that a woman can bring a get, but she has to say that it was written in front of me. And we see that it's talking about that when she brings the get, and when the woman receives it, it's talking about the same woman. She can bring the get on her behalf and into a bezdin and tell the bezdin that I'm bringing this get on behalf of my husband for me to receive it right now in front of you. You see, a woman can be a messenger to bring a get. Shmamina. See from here that you can use a man to be a shliach lekabala and a woman to be a shliach leilacha. Okay, leave it over here.